Good morning. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today, and that is talk through the SFI. That is the Sustainable Farming Incentive, which is not the replacement, but it's effectively the new version of agri-environmental schemes across England. And it is kind of bringing all of countryside stewardship and everything into one scheme. So we've just had a new 24 announcement, so there'll be a new scheme in 2024. So that now means that there has been a soil standard in 22, there has been a SFI 23, which I'll talk about. There's also been the SFI pilot scheme, now there is SFI 24. So it's getting a bit ridiculously complicated, but we basically came out of ELS a few years ago. We went into the SFI pilot for 2 years. We've now gone out of that into the SFI 23 at the start of the year, and I'll be talking a little bit about any SFI 24 standards I'd like to add on top. So, well confusing, but we have now got an SFI 23 agreement, which is what I'm talking about. And yeah, I'll just run you through that and how we've worded it, how I think we're making the most out of it. Also, I just thought I'd mention I am speaking at Cereals on the topic of the SFI. I think it's on the 11th of June, it's the first day. So if you are there, I'll be around only for the morning. But come and have a chat, SFI, and hear me sing its praises or not. So practically then, what have we really gone for? So I didn't want to choose a huge amount of options. I wanted to keep it easy, simple, so I haven't gone for like a huge different options on the same parcel. So I've tended to kind of go for like field corners. So the grass blocks option is really good for field corners. It's basically a tussocky rough grass. You just drill it, kind of set and forget, maybe top once in the first year just to control weeds. You just use it on margins and stuff like that. But the SFI is best for those areas that are in unproductive land. So we use a lot of winter bird food plots. I'll put some photos up here because we do run a small shoot on the farm as well, so we can use it alongside that. But they're good in those wet spots because you drill them in May, June sort of time. So when the ground is generally drier, not really the case this year, but they just work really well, and use them to square off those awkward field corners as well. So it might be land that floods where you've got drainage issues, any areas under trees, just those annoying corners. So in regards to the actual arable land itself, we will still be cropping 89% of it, but for permanent options where we will be permanently taking out of production, so 5% will be down to the winter bird food option, AHL2, which pays, what is it, 853 a hectare. So a big chunk. You can put the no insecticide option with that as well. 1% down to the flower rich plots, which I really love. It's like a traditional hay meadow option. Yeah, it's basically flowery grass that you treat as hay. So a late cut, you can graze it over the winter. And also 5% down to grass blocks. So that's for the squaring off fields, getting rid of field corners. And yeah, that grass blocks, that pays 590 a hectare, so pretty good. And the IPM2, the flower rich blocks, that pays 798. So 3 quite high paying options there. Just had to move the camera, got a sunlight coming in the window and ruining everything. So the main problem with arable farming going at the moment is no one seems to have a reliable break crop. Everyone's kind of focused on oilseed rape. That was big, that's probably the biggest break crop, and it's kind of becoming too difficult to grow, it's too risky, and it's a pain. So we've tried a lot of different things in the past. We're stuck with winter beans for quite a while. Land's getting a little bit sick of beans, and it's letting too much black grass in as it's a winter crop. Tried spring beans, which are a pain. Tried spring peas, tried spring linseed, occasional winter barleys. There's just not really too much anymore. We get on with spring oats quite well actually, but we just don't have a good reliable break crop. So this is where the SFI comes in as a potential replacement. So if I just put on the screen now
a new rotation, and we're using some of those options as some of the area options as to form part of the rotation. So we'd generally be a wheat, peas, wheat, oats rotation. That's what it's been for a couple of years, but we're constantly changing. But so new rotation we're thinking about is going from winter wheat into winter barley. After the winter barley, plant the winter bird food straight behind it over the winter. And then in the spring, go into num3, which is the legume fallow. I'll do a separate video on that because I think I've got quite a good mix for that. I'm really looking forward to how that performs. I'll just show you a quick picture here of what it's looking like at the moment towards the end of May. It should be flying along. So that's the 3 years, and then we'll be going back into a winter wheat and then into spring oats. So moving to a 5-year rotation, 40% of that's winter wheat, 20% of that is winter barley or potentially a whole crop. We'll talk about that in a second. 20% spring oats, and then the 20% is your legume fallow, your num3. So if I just put this little slider, I'll put it along the bottom here, but that is, it's there to show how it will distribute workload throughout the year. So everything won't come at once in the winter or the spring, but if I start in year 1, so you've got a wheat harvest in kind of August, September, late August sort of time, mid-August. So you've got a bit of a gap there, and then you'll be planting a winter barley or whole crop in kind of mid to late September sort of time. That will then run through to mid-July, I'm hoping at the latest. That's the latest as I want to get, because I really want to get that bird food in behind, because you really need to get that in early. And I'm thinking if I'm doing it behind a winter barley crop, I will broadcast. So I've got a neighbour with a 24-metre pneumatic spreader. He does our Avidex. Put a lot of the small seeds in first, just after the barley's been desiccated. So hopefully it will be an earlier harvest. So you get those small seeds on first, get the crop off, get the balers in and gone hopefully quickly. And then if we come in with the Avatar afterwards, straight into the stubble, to put any of those bigger seeds in, like sorghum or sunflowers, anything like that, and hopefully a little bit of fur down the spout as well, then hopefully that will get going and will provide lots of bird food throughout the winter. Thinking about getting quite a few clovers and stuff in there as well, so be ready for the following num3. So we basically follow that all the way in. About February it sort of dies off, and March it kind of comes to its end. And then hopefully April sort of time, it was a bit delayed this year towards the back end of April, but hopefully early April next year we'll be able to get our num3 in, which is our legume fallow. So we'll just spray off before then, so we should have a good black grass break, and then fill that num3 with legumes, get a good bit of sequestration going, should be excellent for soil health. And then in October, you might have to top it depending on how the maturity is, but October, direct drill the wheat straight into that aftermath. So then you've got that wheat for another year, as you can see, and then in mid-August or hopefully early August, as soon as that wheat is off, get the SAM2, which is the over-winter cover crops, get them in as early as possible, get them going, get some sheep on them to graze them down a little bit. And then in the following spring, we'll be going with spring oats, because they're a good break. Also a good bit of straw as well, so our 2 neighbouring beef farmers we do straw for muck with, they can have some oats, and then we'll be back into a wheat again. So that's the kind of rough plan so far. So it should kind of work from an output perspective. So the AHL2, which is the bird food, and the num3, which is the legume fallow, those 2 together will be 1,446 pounds a hectare on output, which is quite considerable, especially compared to any other break crops really. But the trouble is you do have to have that earlier crop beforehand. So I put winter barley and I put whole crop because I might try a couple of fields of whole crop, typically if they've got any blackgrass pressure, instead of winter barley, because it's not very good for blackgrass. And I would probably do a Westerwold's ryegrass mix, a little bit of forage rye and probably winter vetch. Could probably graze that early. Yeah, probably graze that over the winter and then take a cut off and towards the back end of May, basically as late as I can before that blackgrass seeds. So as far as I can see, greater output, spreading workload, lowering workload, greater weed control, way more diversity across the rotation, and a real win for soil health in my mind. But as you did see, that does take 20% of the rotation out of food production. So the rest of the options we've been looking at are kind of stacking the options alongside cash crops. So what have we got here? So for example, for the winter wheat, we'll be claiming the no insecticide payment on that because we don't plant until kind of start of October anyway, so BYDV is not a huge pressure here. Winter barley, we'll also be going with IPM4, the no insecticide. As it will be slightly earlier, there may be BYDV pressure, but we haven't used insecticides for years and I don't really want to start using them just as blanket applications, so we're just going to say nothing to that. And then we will also be claiming SAM2 cover crops on the winter barley or whole crop, because with the winter barley, I'd probably companion crop it with winter linseed and also a little bit of buckwheat. I just want to see if I can get it going before it frost kills in November. And the whole crop, obviously, as that will be Westerwolds, Forage Right and Vetch, three-way mix, that'll count as a cover crop as well. And then with the oats, we can stack the no insecticide option on that. The companion cropping, I've companion cropped ours with spring peas this year, although they didn't do too well. I think the pigeons took a good chunk of them. And obviously the cover crops option as well. Interestingly, with the spring oats in 24 options, there is the low input cereals option coming out, which is about £3.56 a hectare. Which just reduces herbicide spend, but it means you can't companion crop or no insecticide stack as well. So I'll have to run the numbers and see if that makes sense, but it could be a good option to include. So just to finish off, if you take out all of our grassland and if you just concentrate on the arable, what we've changed now should bring in an average over all the arable area of £446 a hectare across entire arable. And if you remember BPS, that is exactly double what the BPS payment was. So a huge income, and as that's a quarterly payment, cash flow implications are going to be really, really good for the business. So very happy about that. And most of that obviously comes from the 20% out of rotationally out, sorry. So future options, the 2024 options have just been released to be open in July. Ones we will be looking at will be the no-till option. I have seen it is not compatible with the NUM3 and it's a static option over 3 years. So how we work that in, I'm not sure how yet. I'm not gonna be able to do it on everything, annoyingly. The harvested low input cereal, be definitely putting in on the spring oats. That seems to be quite a decent payment. I'm not sure what I said earlier, but it is, where are we? Low input cereal. It is £354 a hectare, so really decent payment for that. Just limits herbicides a bit, but it's not too much for spring oats anyway. I'm not sure we can use Star Rain, but we'll just have to check those actives. The variable rate application of nutrients, this is something I was waiting for. And we did upgrade the first spinner this year in anticipation, so it should pay for that fairly quickly, just to be able to use variable rate mapping. The only thing is it includes solid manures, and we use a huge amount of manure. So how we work that could be quite tricky. I'm not sure what we're going to do there. Floodplain meadows, that didn't come out, we're still waiting for that. Same with species-rich grassland, information hasn't been released on that, that's a later option, as well as educational access and permissive access. So a bit annoying on there, but potentially some supplementary bird food will be a big option that we'll be adding on, and haymaking supplements. So once all that's all clarified and sorted, I'll do a separate video on that. But yeah, I think SFI, really good. We're going to make a good bit of money out of it. It's helping us rotationally. Cash flow implications are great. It's going to increase biodiversity across the farm. So I think it's a quite good win for us, really. So thanks very much for watching, and let me know what you're doing, whether you're into SFI or not. And if you want a hand with anything, give me a call, give me a comment, and yeah, I can give you my advice. But anyway, come to Cereals 11th of June and I'll be chatting all about it. Thanks.